Welcome to AITS Podcast on AI Security. In this episode, you will learn about AI security and adversarial threat landscape. Happy learning.
So, you want to know more about AI security, and you're totally right to be curious about it because you're already living with AI every day.
That's right.
It's how Amazon seems to know what you want before you even type it in, how Netflix knows what you want to watch next, even how your phone unlocks when you look at it.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
It really is. But what our listeners are asking about this time is, what happens when those AI systems that we rely on, everyday systems, become vulnerable?
It's a really good question to be asking. You know, the more complex you make a system, any system, the more points of failure you have. And AI is about as complex as we've gotten.
Exactly. And we've got some seriously interesting stuff here. We're going to really deep dive into AI security and specifically the threats that could really mess things up.
And not some far off, theoretical threats. We're talking about real threats that are happening right now.
Okay, like this self-driving car example that we read about. So imagine a car packed with all these sensors and AI cruising down the road.
Right.
And it just blows past a stop sign.
Yeah.
Because someone put a couple of stickers, well-placed stickers, on the stop sign.
It's a chilling thought, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And it's a great example of something that we call data poisoning.
Data poisoning, so like tricking the AI, like giving it bad information.
Exactly. Garbage in, garbage out,
Yeah,
right?
it
You
could.
train an AI on bad data, it's going to make bad decisions. And the way that they manipulated this was essentially like visual static that confused the AI into seeing something that wasn't there.
Okay, so are there other examples of this data poisoning? It's not like someone's going to go around putting stickers on medical scans or something?
You'd be surprised. There actually was a case where researchers were able to manipulate an AI. This AI was designed to diagnose diseases from medical images.
Really?
And they were able to do it by just subtly altering the pixels in the images.
Wow.
And it tricked the AI into making a wrong diagnosis.
So something that could look totally normal to a human, the AI would misread it.
That's exactly right. And if you think about the implications of that, it's kind of terrifying.
Totally. A wrong diagnosis, that's life or death.
Absolutely.
And it's not just healthcare. We saw, one article mentioned an AI that was tricked into thinking a horse was a car. A horse.
Yeah. It sounds absurd, but it just shows how vulnerable these systems can be to even subtle manipulations.
It's wild. Okay, so data poisoning, big threat. We get the whole garbage in, garbage out concept. But why should the average person listening to this, why should they care about this?
Well, because this isn't some kind of sci-fi future that we're talking about. This is happening now. This is real, and the consequences are huge.
Right.
We're talking about financial systems making bad trades, or security systems that misidentify threats, or even, think about medical devices malfunctioning.
It's scary stuff.
Yeah.
Data poisoning is a big deal. Okay, data poisoning, that's scary enough.
It is.
But this next concept, this is straight out of a sci-fi thriller. Model stealing. Wait, are you telling me someone can steal an AI's brain?
Well, not brain theft, literally, but yeah, it's a real threat. It's a huge concern for companies, organizations, anyone who's developing these really complex, sophisticated AI models.
So like corporate espionage, but for AI.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine a company, and they're pouring millions of dollars into AI research. They finally develop this amazing recommendation algorithm, gives them a real competitive advantage.
Okay.
Sales are going up.
Right.
And then a rival company comes along and just steals their model.
Oh, just like that. How do you even steal something like an AI model? How is that even possible?
Well, there are a few different ways. Some are more complex than others. One is exploiting vulnerabilities in what's called the systems API.
The API, so like hacking in?
It can be.
Yeah.
It's more about sort of manipulating the way different software components talk to each other, communicate.
Okay.
So by bombarding the API with tons of queries, carefully crafted queries, attackers can actually piece together enough information about the model, like how it's structured, the parameters, and then they can pretty much reverse engineer the whole thing.
Wow. So they're poking and prodding it until they can kind of figure out how it works, and then they just, copy it?
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
Another way is building what they call a shadow model.
Yeah.
So they feed the target model, the one they want to steal, with just a massive amount of data. And they just see what it spits out, observe the outputs. And using that, they can train their own model to basically mimic the behavior of the original one.
So it's like they're cloning it.
Exactly. They're stealing its intelligence.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. That's wild. Okay, but the bottom line here is model stealing. This is a real thing. This is happening.
It is.
Companies are, like I said, pouring millions, billions into AI research. This is a nightmare scenario for them.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the money. It brings up a lot of questions about, fairness and intellectual property. What does innovation even mean in the age of AI, if this is what can happen?
That's a really good question. Okay, so we've got data poisoning, where you're giving the AI bad information. We've got model stealing, where you're just taking the whole brain, essentially. What else is out there? Like, what other AI security threats should we be aware of?
Well, this next one is really interesting, adversarial attacks. This is more about, almost finding the blind spots in how the AI sees the world.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned that one example, the panda.
Oh, right.
Being misclassified as a given.
Yes.
How is that even possible?
Well, it's a classic example of what we call an evasion attack. So the goal with an evasion attack is to trick the AI into misclassifying something. But you don't want to change it so much that a human would notice.
Okay, so it still looks like a panda to you and me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they manipulate the image digitally, very subtly, in a way that the AI picks up on.
So it's like those optical illusions that mess with your brain and you're seeing things that aren't really there.
Yeah.
Except in this case, it's the AI that's being fooled.
Exactly, yeah. And it's not just images. Think about audio recognition systems. A hacker could, subtly alter a voice command. So it sounds totally normal to us, but the AI hears it and it triggers a totally different action.
Wow. Okay, so that's evasion.
Yeah.
But there are other types of attacks too, right? What about the self-driving car example we were talking about earlier with the stickers on the stop sign?
Right. Yeah, so that could actually be considered more of a backdoor attack.
Okay.
So that's where a malicious actor essentially plants a hidden trigger in the AI model itself.
A hidden trigger, what does that mean?
So think of it like a secret code almost that only the attacker knows. It could be, a specific sequence of data. It could be a symbol. It could be, even something that seems totally random, like a combination of words.
And when the AI encounters that trigger, that's it.
That's when it activates the back door. And then the attacker can kind of bypass the normal decision-making process of the AI and manipulate its behavior.
So those stickers on the stop sign, that could be the trigger to make the car think that it doesn't need to stop. That's terrifying.
It is. And it's a good example of why AI security is such a critical concern.
So we've got data poisoning, we've got model stealing, we've got these adversarial attacks. It's a lot.
It is.
It really feels like we're talking about this incredibly powerful tool, AI,
Yeah.
but one that can be manipulated, it seems like, pretty easily if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, and that's, I think, what makes a lot of this so concerning.
Right.
Is that it can feel very overwhelming, especially with all the technical stuff.
Yeah.
But like with anything else, knowledge is power.
Right.
And so I think step one is just understanding, okay, these threats exist.
Okay.
AI is not foolproof.
Got it.
For all the amazing things that it can do, it's got these vulnerabilities.
So awareness, that's step one. But what comes after awareness? What can people actually do? What action can they take?
Yeah, well, for organizations that are developing and deploying AI systems, it really comes down to building in these really robust security measures.
Okay, so like what? Like strong passwords and encryption, that kind of thing.
That's part of it, for sure. But because AI has these unique vulnerabilities, we also need kind of AI-specific defenses.
Okay, what does that even mean? Like, give me an example.
Yeah, so one example is something called rigorous data validation.
Okay.
And you remember we were talking about data poisoning earlier?
Right.
So think of this like data validation as this really, really strong quality control system.
Okay.
For all the data that's going into the AI, so it's making sure that the data is accurate, it's reliable, it hasn't been messed with. Another key area is anomaly detection.
Anomaly detection.
Yeah, so it's basically training the AI to be on the lookout for anything weird.
Okay.
Any kind of unusual patterns or behaviors
Right.
that could be a sign of an attack.
So like you're teaching the AI to be suspicious.
Exactly.
I like it.
Question things that seem out of place.
Right.
And there's also a lot of research going on right now into making the models themselves more resilient.
Okay.
So, developing algorithms that are harder to fool, even with these really subtle manipulations that we were talking about earlier.
So it's like a constant arms race then, right?
Yeah,
As the attackers are getting more sophisticated,
totally.
the defenses have to keep up.
That's exactly it. And that's why ongoing research in AI security is just so important.
Yeah.
We need really smart people working on this all the time.
Yeah.
Coming up with new and innovative ways to stay ahead of the bad guys.
So we need to be smart about how we develop AI,
Yes.
but we also need to be smart about how we protect it.
Absolutely.
It's like a whole new era of cybersecurity with like way higher stakes than ever before.
It is. It absolutely is.
Well, this has been an amazing deep dive, I have to say.
Yeah.
Really fascinating, kind of terrifying stuff.
It is.
I feel like I've learned a lot, but I'm also maybe a little more concerned about the future than I was before.
Yeah, I think that's understandable.
So as we wrap up here, what's the one thing you want to leave our listeners with? And by the way, our listeners are smart.
They are. They asked for this topic, right?
They did. They requested this deep dive.
That's great.
So what's that one big takeaway?
I would say the future of AI is not set in stone. It really is going to be shaped by the choices that we make today.
Okay.
And the more we understand both the good and the bad, the potential, but also these risks, the better we can make sure that it's used for good.
It's a shared responsibility then. It's not just on the developers or the researchers. It's on all of us to be aware of this and to care about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, on that note, we'll leave you with this thought. If AI is a reflection of our own intelligence, then securing it is a test of our wisdom. Until next time, keep those knowledge-seeking requests coming. We love to go deep on these topics. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to this episode of AITS Podcast on AI Security. If you would like to learn more or would like to have a session for your team, please drop us an email on training@alasad.cloud. Learn more about us on our website, alasad.cloud, that is ALASAD, CLOUD.